The massive chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador William Harris of Earth approached the speaking platform. His steps echoed against the polished stone floor. 200 representatives from 28 different alien species watched him with their various eyes, appendages, and sensory organs. Harris wore a simple gray suit with the blue and green Earth insignia on his lapel. He looked ordinary compared to the colorful and exotic beings around him. The humans had been part of galactic society for only 50 years. They were known as traders, explorers, and diplomats, not warriors. Esteemed members of the council, Harris began, his voice steady and calm. I come before you today with news that may disturb you. As of yesterday, by unanimous vote of the United Nations of Earth, humanity is officially in a state of war. The translation devices barely finished their work before the chamber erupted. Delegates rose from their seats, their voices creating a storm of noise. Some species changed colors in alarm. Others extended threat displays instinctively. The council leader, a tall blue-skinned Arcturian named Selforn, struck his staff against the floor 3 times. The sound cut through the chaos. Ambassador Harris, Exalforn said, his voice deep and resonant. This is most unexpected. Earth has no declared enemies among the council races. With whom are you at war? Harris nodded respectfully. Not with any council race. Leader Exalforn, we face an unknown species from beyond the charted territories of the galaxy. This caused another wave of murmurs. The PEX representative, a floating orb of light, pulsed rapidly with doubt. Ambassador, there is nothing beyond the outer rim except empty space and dead worlds, the PIX said. We have explored those regions for millennia. Harris tapped a small device on his wrist. A hologram appeared above the center of the chamber. It showed a peaceful human colony, homes, farms, and small buildings arranged around a central plaza. Then the image shifted. Fire, destruction. Strange ships with odd curved shapes raining destruction. This was Haven's Point, Harris said. Our colony in the Epsilon sector. Population of 12,000. 3 days ago, it was attacked without warning or provocation by ships of unknown origin. A Velian delegate, covered in red scales, leaned forward. How many survivors? Harris looked directly at the Velian. 843. The chamber grew quiet. Even species that had troubled relationships with humans seemed disturbed. The attackers came from the direction of the dark void, Harris continued. Our sensors tracked their approach vector. The council leader's blue skin paled slightly. The dark void was a region of space beyond the galaxy's outer arm that even the most advanced races avoided. Ambassador Harris, said the representative from Meridia, a humanoid with purple skin and silver eyes. What evidence do you have that these attackers pose a threat to more than just your colony? Harris pressed his wrist device again. The hologram changed to show a star map with a series of red dots forming a line through council space. Based on their trajectory and speed, they will reach 3 more human colonies within weeks. After that, they will encounter worlds belonging to the Meridians, the Volturians, and the Trilaxians. This is not just Earth's problem. The council chamber grew tense. Harris let them absorb this information before he continued. Earth has already mobilized its defense fleets. We are preparing for conflict on a scale we have not faced since our unification. I come here not to ask for assistance, but to inform our allies of the danger. The Draconian representative, a massive reptilian being, laughed. A harsh, grating sound. What danger could your small species possibly face that would concern the great powers of this council? Harris didn't seem offended. He simply changed the hologram one last time. It showed the final moments of Haven's Point's destruction. The strange ships consuming not just structures but seemingly the very matter of the planet itself. We do not seek war, Harris said, his voice firm and clear in the stunned silence. But we will not shy from it. Earth stands united. We recommend the Council prepare accordingly. As Harris stepped away from the platform, the Council remained silent. For the first time in many of their lives, they felt something they had never expected to feel about humans. Fear, not of the humans themselves, but of what might happen to the galaxy without them. Captain Lisa Douglas stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance ship Relentless, staring at the ruins of Havens Point through the main view screen. The colony that once housed 12,000 humans now lay in twisted metal and ash. The air was still hazy with smoke 3 days after the attack. "Captain, you should see this," said Alan Rodriguez, her science officer. He was kneeling near a strange black substance that seemed to flow slightly, even without wind. Douglas approached and crouched beside him. She had been a captain for 8 years, but nothing in her experience prepared her for what happened here. "What am I looking at, Alan?" she asked. Rodriguez passed a scanner over the substance. "It's not just destroying matter. It's converting it somehow. I've never seen anything like this technology." Douglas touched her communicator. "Douglas, to all survey teams. If you find any of this black material, do not touch it directly. Mark the location and move on." The Relentless had arrived 12 hours ago, with orders to gather information about the attackers. So far, they had found only destruction and strange technology beyond their understanding. "Captain," called the communications officer, "we've recovered data from the colony's defense systems. It's damage, but there's something there." Back on the bridge, they reviewed the fragmented recordings. The images were broken and jumpy, but they showed glimpses of the attacking ships. They moved like nothing human engineers had ever built, flowing rather than flying, with shapes that seemed to change as they moved. "Are they organic?" Douglas wondered aloud. Rodriguez pointed to a section of the recording. "Look at how they feed on the structures. They're not just destroying. They're consuming." While the Relentless continued its investigation, Ambassador Harris introduced senior diplomat Catherine Wells to address the still-stunned Galactic Council on Earth's findings. Wells was tall and composed, with gray streaking her dark hair. She had negotiated 15 treaties with alien races and was respected even among species that found humans unpredictable. The attack on Havens Point was not random, she explained to the Council. "Our analysis suggests the colony was targeted specifically for its resources. The attackers consumed not just structures, but processed metals, energy sources, and even organic matter." The Council chamber remained unusually quiet. Wells gestured, and a hologram appeared showing the recovered footage from Havens Point. "We have linked to Dr. Gregory Martins at Earth's Xenobiology Institute," she said. A hologram of a bearded man in a lab coat appeared beside her. Dr. Martinez cleared his throat. "Counselors, what you're seeing matches ancient records of a species once thought to be myth, the Void Harvesters. They appear every few thousand years according to scattered historical accounts from the oldest spacefaring races. The Trilaxian delegate, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like bark, rose slowly. "Our ancestors spoke of such beings," the delegate said. "World eaters from the darkness between galaxies. We thought them legends to frighten children. They are quite real," Martins replied. "And based on the attack pattern at Havens Point, they are extremely advanced. Their technology appears to break down matter at the atomic level and convert it to energy." Wells stepped forward again. "We believe they are building something in the dark void. The resources they've harvested from Havens Point, and likely from other worlds before reaching Council space, are being transported there." The Council leader looked troubled. "What evidence do you have of this?" Wells nodded to an aide who adjusted the hologram. Now it showed energy signatures moving away from Havens Point toward the edge of the galaxy. "Our deep space monitoring stations track these energy patterns. Whatever the harvesters are building, it's massive." The Arcturian representative's skin rippled with blue patterns of concern. "If what you say is true, this threatens all Council worlds." Wells nodded gravely. "Yes, and Earth intends to stop them." A low murmur spread through the chamber. The humans' determination seemed either admirably brave or foolishly suicidal, depending on which delegate you asked. As the council debated their response, Captain Douglas made a discovery on the ruined colony that would change everything. In the remains of the colony's research center, Rodriguez found a dead harvester, or at least part of one. "Captain," he called, his voice shaking slightly, "I think we just found their weakness." President Olivia Sanchez stood before the United Nations of Earth in New York City. The Grand Hall was packed with representatives from every nation. Screens broadcast her speech to billions of humans across Earth and its colonies. "Citizens of Earth and her colonies," Sanchez began, her voice strong despite her lack of sleep over the past 3 days. The attack on Havens Point was not just an assault on a distant colony. It was an attack on all humanity. The room was silent. In the 50 years since first contact with alien life, humans had grown used to peace. War seemed like a relic of their past. "Today, I am authorizing the full mobilization of Earth's defense forces," Sanchez continued. "Every ship, every soldier, every resource we have will be directed toward protecting our people and our allies in the Galactic Council." What the Council didn't know, what Earth had carefully hidden for decades, was just how extensive those forces were. In an office deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, General Eric Patterson activated systems that had been waiting for this day. "Begin conversion of the merchant fleet," he ordered his staff. "Activate the orbital defense grid, and send the signal to the Artemis base on Mars." Across the solar system, hidden compartments in ordinary-looking transport ships slid open to reveal weapons systems. Cargo holds transformed into fighter bays. Civilian crews stepped aside as military personnel took command positions they had trained for in secret. Earth had never forgotten its violent history. While presenting a peaceful face to the galaxy, humanity had quietly prepared for war. Back at the Galactic Council, 3 species, the Trilaxians, Volturians, and Meridians, formally offered alliance with Earth. They were the closest to human territory and would be the next targets if the Void Harvesters continued their advance. Ambassador Harris worked with Council Security Director Samantha Collins in a private chamber, planning defense strategies. Collins had served in Earth's Space Force before becoming a diplomat. She knew more about human military capabilities than most aliens suspected. "We can establish a defensive line here," Collins said, pointing to a star map. "The Meridian shipyards can be converted to produce these shield generators based on our designs." The Volturian representative, a sleek being with silver skin, looked impressed. "These plans are remarkably detailed for a species that has been officially peaceful for 50 years. Harris exchanged a glance with Collins. "Let's just say we believe in being prepared." The news of Earth's rapid military buildup spread quickly through the Council. Transport ships that had been visiting alien worlds for trade were suddenly revealing hidden weapons and armor. Human diplomatic vessels were now coordinating defense fleets. The draconian representative who had laughed at Harris now watched in silence as humans transformed before the galaxy's eyes. It was as if a mask had been removed, revealing the warrior species that had always existed beneath their friendly exterior. An elder Trilaxian approached Collins after one planning session. His bark-like skin was etched with the patterns that indicated great age among his kind. When humans first joined the Council, the elder said quietly, "Many of us feared you. Your history of conflict was troubling. Your rapid advancement, concerning." Collins nodded, well aware of how other species had viewed humanity. "Now I fear something else entirely," the Trilaxian continued. "I fear what would happen without you." On the 6th day after the attack on Havens Point, the combined fleet of Earth and its new allies gathered at the edge of human space. 500 ships, many of them previously disguised as merchants or explorers, formed a defensive line. Captain Douglas's Relentless returned from its mission with crucial data about the harvesters. The specimen they had recovered was being studied by scientists from all 4 allied species. "They're coming," Douglas reported to General Patterson. "Our long-range sensors detect at least 80 harvester ships moving towards the Epsilon sector." Patterson's face was grim. "Then we meet them there. They attacked one human colony. They won't get the chance to attack another." As the Allied fleet prepared for humanity's first interstellar war, something unexpected happened. A single harvester ship appeared directly at the Galactic Council's headquarters. It bypassed all defenses as if they didn't exist. The war was about to enter a new phase. The Council's security forces surrounded the harvester ship that had appeared without warning in the center of the Grand Chamber. Their weapons were drawn but seemed small and inadequate against the black, shifting mass of the vessel. It was the size of a small shuttle, but moved like a living thing, its surface rippling and flowing. A section of the ship opened, though opened wasn't quite the right word. The material simply parted, like water making way for a hand. From within emerged a being unlike any the Council had ever seen. It was roughly humanoid in shape, but composed entirely of a dark, swirling substance that seemed to both absorb and emit shadow. Where a face should be, there were only deeper pools of darkness with tiny points of light, like distant stars. "I bring a message," it said, its voice somehow reaching directly into the minds of everyone present. "I am the voice of the Void Harvesters." The Council representatives remained frozen in their seats. Even the bravest among them felt a primal fear in the presence of this being. It radiated ancient power and complete indifference to their existence. "Your kind has been measured and found useful," the emissary continued. "Surrender your resource-rich worlds to us for harvesting, and some of you may be permitted to continue existing on less valuable planets." The chamber was silent. The council leader, Tel Thorne, tried to speak, but found his voice failing him. The fear emanating from the harvester emissary was not just emotional. It had a physical effect, paralyzing most of those present. Then a human stepped forward. Daniel Howard was a junior diplomat, only recently assigned to the council. He had no authority to speak, but no one else seemed able to. "With respect," Howard said, his voice shaking slightly but growing stronger with each word, "we have a counter-offer." The harvester turned its attention to him. Several council members tried to signal Howard to stop, to back away, but he continued. "Leave this galaxy now," Howard said clearly, "or face extinction." A sound came from the harvester that might have been laughter. "Your species is young and small," it replied. "You cannot comprehend what you face. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies over millions of years. Your defiance is meaningless." Howard stood straighter. "Perhaps, but humans have something you haven't encountered before." "And what is that?" the harvester asked, seeming almost amused by the small creature before it. "We've spent our entire history fighting ourselves," Howard said. "We know war better than peace, and now, for the first time, we have a common enemy." The emissary moved closer to Howard. Two security officers nearby suddenly collapsed, their bodies shriveling as if the life was being drawn out of them merely by the harvester's proximity. "Your bravery is noted, human," it said. "It changes nothing. In 3 cycles of your star, our main fleet will arrive through the gateway we are constructing. Your worlds will be harvested. Your species will be remembered only in our collective memory." Howard didn't back away despite the dead officers nearby. "Then remember this. Humans don't surrender. Not ever." The emissary seemed to study him for a moment longer, then turned and re-entered its ship. The vessel departed as mysteriously as it had arrived, simply vanishing rather than using any visible propulsion. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted questions, demanded explanations, or simply tried to flee. Howard found himself surrounded by council security, some treating him as a hero, others blaming him for provoking the emissary. Ambassador Harris pushed through the crowd. "That was either very brave or very foolish," he told Howard quietly. "Probably both, sir," Howard admitted. "But someone had to say something." Harris nodded. "The question now is whether we can back up your words." 20 light-years away, the first battle of the war was about to begin. The Void Harvesters had changed course. Instead of heading for another human colony, they were moving toward the Meridian homeworld. "They're making a statement," Captain Lisa Douglas told her crew aboard the Relentless. "They want to show us what happens when we defy them." The Meridians were evacuating their cities, but there were billions of people on their homeworld. Even with the combined human-alien fleet, they couldn't possibly evacuate them all in time. The sky above the Meridian homeworld turned black as the harvester ships arrived. There were 23 of them, each the size of a small moon. They hung in low orbit, their surfaces shifting and flowing like oil on water. The beautiful blue-green planet with its 3 moons seemed small and fragile beneath them. Captain Joseph Rivera stood on the bridge of the Earth battleship Defiance. It was humanity's newest and most powerful warship, rushed from its testing phase into active duty when the harvesters appeared. Status of the evacuation. Rivera asked his communications officer. Meridian authorities report 8 million evacuated so far, she replied. But there are over 4 billion still on the surface. Rivera's jaw tightened. They had arrived with a small fleet, 7 human ships and 4 Volturian vessels, to help with the evacuation. They weren't meant to fight, just to get as many people off-world as possible. Captain, his sensor officer called out. The harvesters are deploying smaller ships. They're heading for the largest cities. Rivera made his decision in that moment. He knew his orders. Avoid engagement, focus on evacuation. But he also knew that once the harvesters began their work, there would be nothing left to evacuate. Battle stations, he ordered. Signal the fleet. We're engaging the enemy. The bridge crew looked at him with a mixture of fear and determination. They had all seen the records from Havens Point. They knew what they were facing. Sir, his executive officer said quietly, General Patterson specifically ordered us not to engage. Rivera nodded. I know. I'll take full responsibility. But I'm not going to float here and watch billions die without trying to stop it. The Defiance moved forward, its engines glowing bright against the blackness of space. The rest of the small fleet followed, forming a battle line between the harvesters and the planet below. On Earth, Dr. Nancy Clark had been working day and night since the sample from Havens Point arrived. She had discovered something unexpected in the harvester's cellular structure. They absorb energy, she explained to General Patterson over a secure channel, but only certain frequencies. Others actually harm them. Patterson leaned closer to his screen. Can we weaponize this? We already have, Clark said, holding up a small device. We've modified standard energy weapons to emit exactly the right frequency. The problem is power. It takes a massive amount of energy to generate enough to damage them significantly. Patterson's eyes widened as he understood. The Defiance. It's the only ship with a power core strong enough. Yes, Clark nodded. But the modifications need to be made on-site. Someone would need to manually adjust the main weapon array. Patterson was already reaching for his communicator when an aide burst into his office. Sir, the Defiance has engaged the harvesters at the Meridian homeworld. Around the Meridian planet, chaos erupted as Rivera's small fleet fired their first volleys at the massive harvester ships. Their weapons seemed to have little effect, the energy simply absorbed into the black, flowing hulls. But Rivera had one advantage. The harvesters seemed surprised by the attack. They had not expected resistance, especially not from the small fleet that had been evacuating civilians. Target the smaller ships first, Rivera ordered. Protect the evacuation transports. The Defiance's weapons blazed, destroying 2 of the smaller harvester vessels as they descended toward the planet. For a moment, hope flared among the crew. Then the larger ships responded. Beams of dark energy lanced out, cutting through the shields of the Allied vessels as if they weren't there. 3 ships, 2 human and 1 Volturian, were hit in the first volley. They didn't explode. They simply seemed to collapse in on themselves, their matter converted to energy and absorbed by the harvesters. Evasive maneuvers, Rivera shouted as a beam narrowly missed the Defiance. Keep firing. His weapons officer looked back, face pale. Sir, our weapons are having minimal effect. It's like shooting into an ocean. Just then, Rivera's communication officer called out. Captain, priority transmission from Earth Command. Dr. Clark says she knows how to hurt them. As the Defiance rolled to avoid another attack, Rivera felt a surge of hope. Put her through. Now, Dr. Nancy Clark's face appeared on the Defiance's main screen. Behind her, the Earth science team worked frantically in their lab. Captain Rivera, the harvesters absorb energy to feed, but they're vulnerable to a specific frequency range, she explained quickly. You need to modify your main weapon array to emit at exactly 1.47 terahertz. Rivera turned to his engineer. Can we do it? The engineer nodded. Yes, sir, but it will require manual adjustments to the main power core. Someone has to go in there physically. How long? Rivera asked as the ship shook from a near miss. 10 minutes, maybe less if we hurry. Rivera made the call. Do it. I'll buy you time. The Defiance spun and dived, drawing fire from the largest harvester ship, while the remaining Allied vessels continued evacuating civilians. 3 more Meridian transport ships escaped the atmosphere, each carrying thousands of refugees. In the engine room, the engineer and his team worked frantically. They had to realign the energy emitters while the ship was in combat, a procedure that was never meant to be done outside of a shipyard. Sir, the weapons officer called out. Shields down to 38%. We can't take many more hits. Rivera watched as another Allied ship was hit. This time it was the Volturian vessel Swiftwind. Unlike the previous ships, it didn't immediately collapse. Instead, it seemed to be fighting the energy beam somehow. Get me the Swiftwind, Rivera ordered. The Volturian captain's silver face appeared on screen. Human, we cannot hold much longer. Just a few more minutes, Rivera urged. We're modifying our weapons. On Earth, Dr. Clark and engineer Frank Bailey had assembled a team of scientists from 6 different species. They were working around the clock to develop weapons that could harm the harvesters. The sample from Haven's Point is the key, Bailey told President Sanchez in a secure briefing room. These aren't just ships we're fighting. They're almost like living organisms that evolved to consume energy and matter. And that makes them vulnerable. Sanchez asked. Clark nodded. Everything that lives has vulnerabilities. The harvesters feed by absorbing energy at certain frequencies, but other frequencies disrupt their cellular structure. Bailey spread out the designs on the table. We're adapting this technology into larger weapons. If Captain Rivera's modifications work, we'll have proof of concept. The gathered scientists represented the greatest minds from the Trilaxians, Volturians, Meridians, and other council species. Many had been rivals before, but now they worked together with a single purpose. A Volturian scientist raised a concern. Even with these weapons, the harvesters outnumber us greatly. How do we fight them all? Sanchez's expression was grim, one battle at a time. Back at the Meridian homeworld, the engineer shouted over the ship's intercom. Modifications complete, Captain. Main weapons reconfigured to 1.47 terahertz. Rivera didn't waste a second. Target the lead harvester and fire. The Defiance's main cannon fired a beam that looked no different than before, but when it struck the harvester ship, everything changed. Instead of being absorbed, the energy tore through the black surface. The harvester ship seemed to writhe in pain, its flowing surface becoming chaotic. It's working. The weapons officer shouted. We're damaging it. Rivera allowed himself a small smile. Target their propulsion systems and fire again. The second shot hit the rear of the harvester ship. A massive hole appeared, revealing strange organic-looking structures inside. The ship began to list to one side, but the victory was short-lived. The other harvester vessels concentrated their fire on the Defiance, recognizing the new threat. Shields failing, the tactical officer reported. Hull breach on decks 3 through 7. Rivera gripped his command chair as the ship shuddered violently. Send the weapon specifications to all Allied ships, he ordered. Make sure Earth gets our sensor data. The communications officer worked frantically. Transmission complete, sir. Earth Command acknowledges receipt. Another hit rocked the ship. Power failed across multiple decks. Fire suppression systems activated automatically. Sir, The executive officer said quietly, "We should consider abandoning ship." Rivera looked at the view screen. The wounded harvester was now retreating, moving away from the planet. They had heard it. For the first time, humans had heard one of them. "Prepare evacuation," Rivera agreed. "But first, one more shot." Admiral Helen Ward looked out at the assembled fleet from the bridge of her flagship, the Earth Alliance vessel Determination. 127 ships from 12 different species floated in formation at the edge of charted space. It was the largest combined fleet in galactic history. "Status report," Ward ordered, her voice calm despite the weight of her command. "All ships report ready, Admiral," her executive officer replied. "The Volturian and Trilaxian contingents have finished installing the modified weapons. The Meridians have deployed their sensor drones." Ward nodded. 3 weeks had passed since the Battle of Meridian. The Defiance had been destroyed, but not before Captain Rivera transmitted the weapon specifications and sensor data to Earth. His final shot had crippled a second harvester ship before his vessel broke apart. Rivera's sacrifice had not been in vain. The data from the Defiance had been the key to developing more effective weapons. Dr. Clark and Engineer Bailey had worked tirelessly to improve the technology. "The gateway is active," reported the sensor officer. "Energy readings are consistent with Dr. Clark's predictions." On the main view screen, a massive structure was visible. The harvesters had been building it for weeks, a gateway to bring their main fleet from beyond the galaxy's edge. It was a swirling vortex of dark energy, surrounded by organic-looking technology that seemed to pulse with life. "Open a channel to all ships," Ward ordered. When the communications officer nodded, Ward stood straighter. "This is Admiral Ward. Today we face an enemy that has consumed countless worlds. They believe we are weak. They believe we are divided. They are wrong." Across the fleet, crews of many species listened. Humans, Volturians, Trilaxians, Meridians, and others, all united against a common threat. "The plan is simple," Ward continued. "The harvesters feed on energy. We're going to give them more than they can handle. Battle Group Alpha will target the gateway control ships. Battle Groups Beta and Gamma will engage the harvester defenders. All ships remember to cycle your weapon frequencies according to the pattern developed by our scientists." Ward looked at her bridge crew, meeting each person's eyes. "Earth stands with our allies. Together, we will prevail." The Allied fleet moved forward. Immediately, the harvester ships guarding the gateway responded. There were 35 of them, each massive and powerful. But unlike at Meridian, this time the Allied ships were prepared. The space between the fleets lit up with energy beams of various colors. The harvesters fired their dark energy weapons, but the Allied ships were ready with evasive maneuvers. When the Alliance fired back, their weapons had been modified to the frequencies that could harm the harvesters. On the Determination, Ward directed the battle with calm precision. "Battle Group Alpha, push forward. We need to reach those control ships." Lieutenant Ryan Phillips piloted his small attack craft through the chaos of battle. His squadron of 20 fighters weaved between the larger ships, targeting vulnerable points on the harvesters that the bigger Allied ships couldn't reach. "Aim for the junction points," Phillips instructed his squadron. "That's where their energy distribution systems are weakest." The battle raged for hours. 6 Allied ships were destroyed in the first wave, 8 more in the second. But they were inflicting damage too. 3 harvester vessels had been disabled. A 4th was drifting, its systems failing. Then something changed. The gateway began to pulse more rapidly. Energy readings spiked. "Admiral," the science officer called out. "The gateway is stabilizing. Something's coming through." On the view screen, a massive shape began to emerge from the swirling vortex. It was a harvester ship, but unlike any they had seen before. This one was the size of a small planet, its surface a complex pattern of flowing darkness. "That's their command ship," Ward realized. "If it comes through, we won't have the firepower to stop it." Phillips saw it too from his fighter. He had been studying the gateway's structure during the battle. He noticed that all energy flowed through a central control ship, slightly smaller than the others, but surrounded by a protective formation. "Squadron, new target," he called to his remaining fighters. "We're going for the Gateway control. I have an idea." 1 year after the Battle of the Gateway, representatives from all Galactic Council species gathered on Earth for the first Unity Day celebration. The Grand Plaza in New Geneva was filled with beings of every shape, size, and color. Many had been enemies or rivals before the war. Now they stood together as allies. At the center of the plaza stood a monument, a simple black pillar with the names of those who had fallen fighting the Void Harvesters. Captain Joseph Rivera's name was near the top, along with Lieutenant Ryan Phillips and the crews of 23 other ships lost in the final battle. Ambassador William Harris, now serving as the first human High Director of the Galactic Council, approached the speaker's platform. The crowd grew quiet. 1 year ago today, Harris began, Lieutenant Phillips and his squadron flew into the heart of the enemy gateway. They carried with them a quantum disruptor, a device that Dr. Clark and engineers from 6 different species created together. The crowd looked up as fighter craft from various species performed a missing man formation overhead. Phillips knew it was a one-way mission. Harris continued. The disruptor had to be manually activated at the exact center of the gateway control ship. His final words to Admiral Ward were simple. "Tell them we won." Harris paused, looking out at the assembled beings. "And we did win. When the disruptor activated, it collapsed the gateway, cutting off the Harvester reinforcements. The combined fleet destroyed the remaining enemy ships. On a raised platform to one side, Admiral Helen Ward sat with other military leaders who had commanded during the battle. Her uniform bore new insignia. She now led the Combined Defense Force, a permanent military alliance between Council species. "Today we signed the Galactic Defense Accord," Harris announced. "This agreement creates a united front against any future threats to our shared peace." Leaders from 28 species came forward to sign the document. Some walked on legs, others floated or slithered. All had fought together, and all had lost people in the war. After the ceremony, Ward returned to her new command ship, the Earth Alliance vessel Unity. From orbit, she looked down at the blue-green planet below. Earth looked peaceful from space, with no sign of the preparations continuing below. "Admiral," her aide said, "the Council Security Director is here to see you." Samantha Collins entered the bridge. Her diplomatic uniform now included military decorations from 3 different species. "The early warning network is online," Collins reported. "We've established monitoring stations along the galaxy's edge." Ward nodded. "And the intelligence reports?" "Concerning," Collins admitted. "We've detected energy signatures similar to Harvester technology in the neighboring galaxy. They're regrouping." Neither woman seemed surprised. They had known this wasn't over. The Harvesters had consumed thousands of galaxies over millions of years. They wouldn't stop because of one defeat. "How long do we have?" Ward asked. "Years. Maybe decades," Collins replied. "Time enough to prepare properly." Ward turned back to the view screen. In the distance, she could see construction platforms where new defense ships were being built using combined technology from multiple species. The Meridians contributed their advanced shield designs. The Volturians added their propulsion systems. Humans provided weapons and tactical systems. "We'll be ready," Ward said simply. Her communications officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal from Station Outpost 17. They've detected unusual energy readings at the edge of the defense network." Ward and Collins exchanged glances. It was too soon for the Harvesters to return in force. This was something else. "Put it on screen," Ward ordered. The image showed a section of empty space near the galaxy's edge. At first, nothing seemed unusual. Then a ripple appeared, like water disturbed by a stone. "Analysis?" Ward asked. Her science officer studied the readings. "Unknown, Admiral. Not Harvester technology, but definitely artificial. Something is coming through. Ward straightened her uniform. Alert the defense fleet. Yellow status. As she issued orders, Ward felt a strange mix of concern and confidence. Whatever was coming, humanity and its allies would face it together. Well, she said quietly to Collins, if they come looking for trouble, they'll find us ready.